Today, we will talk again about the role of the scientists, but this time we will be amphibian biologists. النهاردة هنبتدي نتحول لبيولوجيستس. biologists هم علماء الأحياء اللي بيدرسوا living organisms، وهنبتدي نتكلم عن living organism بيواجه خطر كبير جدا. Hello 4th grade students. In our 6th and final lesson in Concept 1, I'm sure you wonder now about the title STEM in Action. What does this word mean and how it relates to our lesson? STEM is the abbreviation of the 4 disciplines of science: technology, engineering, and mathematics. And these disciplines focus on developing important skills such as critical thinking, creativity, and problems. And any job that uses 2 or more of these 4 disciplines are called STEM career. We will see STEM in actions sometimes in the last lesson of each concept, and whenever this happens, get ready to know how scientists use these disciplines to solve the problems, like the one facing amphibians. Amphibians? Biologists are the scientists who study a specific type of living organism called amphibians. So what are amphibians? Amphibians هي البرمائيات. They are organisms that can live in water and on land, and they always start the first stage of their lives in water, and they stay a little bit until they can go out to the land. And I'm sure you know a type of them now. Exactly, the frog. In order to know more about amphibians, we will start activity Analyze Like a Scientist. In Analyze Like a Scientist, we will read why it's important that the scientists study the way the amphibians adapt and how this helps them to preserve these organisms from extinction. The term extinction means that large numbers of organisms gradually die until they completely disappear. Extinction معناها بكل بساطة إن بيحصل انقراض للنوع ده من living organisms. والساينتست دايما بيبقوا مهتمين بالانيمالز اللي قريبة خلاص من يحصل لها extinction وأسباب الاكستنشن إيه. I'll give you some time to read the text, and while you are reading, I want you to underline the main ideas that will help us analyze some information such as what are the different adaptations, and this will help us to understand that what we know of how amphibians adapt can help us to save them. Let's start. We will start our analysis of the text by talking about the amphibians. That we got to know is the frog. And there are many types of frogs that exist in the world, including the golden frog you have in the book. As for the second type, it's possible that many of you have seen and heard its sound, and it's called toad. These are very similar to frogs, and they live in wet, muddy places like swamps. The last one is salamanders. Salamanders are the third type of amphibians mentioned in the text. As you can see, its body is thin and long, and it has a tail close to the length of its body. There are many different types of it around the world. Now we come to the most important question. What are the different ways in which amphibians adapt? Think about when we said that they live in the water and on land like us, which means they breathe air like us. That's why they have lungs to help them breathe outside the water. That's not all of it. There is another way in which they breathe that differs from us. Exactly, through the skin. Amphibians are covered with a skin that water and gases can pass through. As water comes into contact with their skin, amphibians extract the oxygen directly from the water. Do you think that problems like water and air pollution we talked about in our last lesson can affect amphibians? البرمائيات عندهم حاجة مميزة جدا، إن هم يقدروا يتنفسوا على الأرض زينا using their lungs، وكمان يقدروا يتنفسوا في الواتر. طب إزاي هيتنفسوا في المية؟ through their skin. الجلد بتاعهم بيقدر ياخد الأكسجين ويدخله جوه جسمهم. Let's analyze how the adaptations of this type of organism can help us understand the problems and risks that they face. Since amphibians have skin that allow gases to pass into their body, such as oxygen, the polluted air and water can affect them easily. They are really sensitive to pollution, which has made large number of them go extinct over time. So what about taking some actions to save this kind of organisms? Ready? Let's start by answering questions, and then I'll share with you some steps taken from my students. The first question needs us to have a role with the scientist by writing a tweet, which means a short and impressive message, and the number of its letters doesn't exceed 140. Let's see what some of my students wrote. You too? Think of tweets or maybe design a logo that gives a message about the protection of amphibians. It can be a simple drawing or some symbols, and you can send us your tweets on مدرستنا Facebook page. Each one of you could have a role. The students in my class decided to make a list that includes 2 ways to conserve waterways. ما تنسوش إن مشكلتنا الأساسية كانت مع الجولدن فروجز إن هم بيحصل لهم extinction because of the pollution of water، إن بيحصل تلوث في بيئتهم اللي هم بيعيشوا فيها اللي هي المية. أوكي؟
تقدر تتابع كل دروسك على تطبيق مدرستنا بلس. مدرستنا، المستقبل يبدأ الآن.